Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Power of Love Summit. I'm your co-host, Dr. Mike Sapiro, and I'm honored and very excited to be here with both Dr. Jack Kornfield and Trudy Goodman. Trudy Goodman is a mindfulness meditation teacher, psychotherapist, and founder of Insight LA. She co-founded the Community Therapeutic Day School and the Institute for Meditation and Psychotherapy in Boston. A retreat leader worldwide, she also voices Trudy the Love Barbarian in The Midnight Gospel on Netflix. And Jack Kornfield is a renowned meditation teacher and author who helped introduce Buddhist meditation to the West. He co-founded the Insight Meditation Society and Spirit Rock Meditation Center. Holding a PhD in clinical psychology, he bridges Buddhist wisdom and Western psychology. His books include A Path with Heart and No Time Like the Present. Trudy and Jack, thank you both so much for being with us.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure. It is Dr. Trudy Goodman. Hi, Trudy.
Hi, Jack.
Well, I would love to instigate a conversation or argument between all of us together on love. This is the Love Summit. And so my first question for both of you, what's most alive for you with your teachings around love?
You want me to go first, Trudy, or you?
You can go first.
What's alive right now, and I'm not sure when the summit will air, is that we're recording in March of 2025, and we're now about a month plus into the new presidency of Donald Trump. And I'm getting huge numbers of people talking to me who are upset or concerned or afraid and so forth. How do we bridge the divide? How do we love each other when there's so much that's out there that's trying to divide us? So that's up. And, you could say, well, I'm talking about the world out there and so forth, but it affects me and everybody viscerally. Mm-hmm. It touches our bodies and hearts, and whenever this airs, it's still going to be here because the conflicts in the world are part of us.
Mm-hmm. And so how does love play a part in the work we're doing? Is it an internal, directing inward toward the parts that suffer inside of us and then extending it towards the parts in others? How does love act as a bridge?
Oh, when love meets suffering, when we teach the practices of cultivating love, the loving kindness, metta practices, and I always want to give a shout out for Sharon Salzberg, who in 1995 put those practices front and center in the meditation world, in the insight meditation world, where we, the love, it was always kind of an afterthought, and then she put it front and center. And the ability to cultivate, to actually do practices that grow our capacity for love is so important right now, given that love, when it meets suffering or unhappiness, it becomes compassion. And the anger and the outrage that many people are expressing right now, how does love figure into that? That's where I feel like it is so important for us to cultivate our own inner sense of love and being able to access that so that we can hold all the other feelings. We can hold whatever anger, whatever other painful feelings, fear, outrage, etc., are happening. We can hold them in a loving heart. And that doesn't mean we don't feel them fully at all. We do. But it also means that there's a kind of, Ram Dass called it, he talked about his teacher, his guru's blanket, just wrapping a blanket of love around the world. And that includes everything. And we don't have to love everything, but we need to stay connected to that possibility.
Jack, how about for you? How does love act as a bridge?
So my dear friend Trudy and my dear friend Wes Nisker, one of our colleagues and real Dharma brothers, died a couple of years ago. And he went to interview Gary Snyder. Gary Snyder's in his 90s, celebrated poet, beat poet, activist who wrote Earth Household more than 50 years ago and has been this amazing environmentalist. He won the Pulitzer Prize. And he said, Gary, the oceans are rising, refugees all around the world, species are dying, the climate is getting hotter. What advice do you have for us at this time? And Gary looked back and said, don't feel guilty. Mm. If you want to save it, don't save it out of guilt. Don't save it out of fear or anger. I mean, those are all feelings that we have. He said, but guilt and anger and fear are what cause the problem. If you want to save it because you love it. It's the only power that really can defeat or move or expand and overcome all the obstacles of fear and anger. You know, it's a power that has mothers lift cars off children. And if you look into the eyes and the hearts of who's ever in the political conflicts that we're in now, especially if you talk to them and say, you know, are you afraid? Are you angry? Are you upset? You know, or guilty, whatever. They might say yes. And I might say, do you know why? Because you care. You wouldn't be angry or afraid if you didn't care. And you can actually drop beneath the conflict and the fear and the anger and so forth and drop to the fact that we actually do care, that that's part of who we are as human beings. And tuning into that begins to bridge the divide, because care is another word for love.
So many people right now are struggling with anger, hatred, disappointment, resentment. And when I suggest that they start caring for the parts of them that feel that, I often get resistance. Like, no, the work is I got to do something out there. And it's so often we neglect those parts of ourselves. How do you all help people really turn that light of love inward to helping them realize that what we have inside needs tending just as much as the tending outside?
Well, that's a question we get all the time. Trudy's going to say more, but I'm just going to say the whole notion that there's an in there and out there is really wrong. Go ahead, Trudy.
Yeah, I mean, that it's all one thing. And I think people forget, it's like feeling the compassion for the suffering out there. We often forget to include ourselves in that circle of compassion. I hear from people that they're not sleeping well, for example. So we need to be including ourselves in that circle of compassion. And it's not either or, it's just helping people see it's both and. Because as Jack was saying, that divide between out there and in here, no, it's really just an idea. It's not the actuality of who we are, which is really one thing. I perceive from in here, I look out there, but it's one thing happening. And helping people understand that, I think it's useful. I also work with people to see, what is being triggered in you, particularly you. And often it's something coming from their previous life, their conditioning, and linking it to that and understanding that can also just, as our friend Dan Siegel says, open the window of tolerance for the difficult feelings. And certainly we're not advocating for meditating it all away. We need action out in the world. I'm really hopeful for action out in the world. I see so many younger people doing creative and fantastic things, courageous things out in the world. Yeah.
It's also important, Michael, to understand that even the word for mindfulness, which we've in many ways borrowed from the Buddhist tradition, in Pali or Sanskrit, sati sampajanya, is a compound word. And the first part of it means mindful presence. And the second part means mindful response. That they are actually wedded together like breathing in and out. or as they say in Zen, there are only two things. You sit and you sweep the garden. And it doesn't matter how big the garden is.
Mm-hmm. I think you both teach on the concept of universal consciousness and this concept of also interdependence, that nothing exists without everything else together, and that we are everything. We are generated of everything. I think it's very difficult for people to actually touch that. I know they can get there in psychedelic experiences, deep meditation, but it's such a fundamental truth. How do you bring people to that place where they are feeling a felt sense of interdependence and that oneness as all things?
Yeah, that's a huge question. And I think that's where meditation comes in. That meditation practice really helps people develop their own intuitive sense of that from their own felt experience. Because when you take time to quiet down, and it does often take the support of a group to do that these days, but then when you do that, you just start to sense that there isn't really a separation. There is one. We're not all fused into some,
Mhm.
merged pathological oneness where there's no sense of me or you, but that within that, yeah, I think meditation, also poetry. I have a beautiful poem, and I forget who wrote it. Maybe you remember, Jack, but it's can I just read a little bit of it? Because
Yeah.
this is one of the ways that I feel poetry can also help open the heart. Um, and it's called My Ancestry DNA. It says, my ancestry DNA results came in just as I suspected. My great-great-grandfather was a monarch butterfly. Much of who I am is still wriggling under a stone. I'm part larva, but part hummingbird too. There's a dinosaur tar in my bone marrow. There's, and then it just goes on and on throughout time and space and different people. There are traces of white people in my saliva. 3.7 billion years ago, I swirled in golden dust, dreaming of a planet overgrown. I walked with hairy paws across a land bridge. I admit it, and then it goes on to speak directly to the reader. You have wings, vast and golden like mine. You have sweat, black and salty like mine. You have secrets singing in your blood like mine. So I feel like poetry and being introduced to the very idea that we're not separate, because the way we're conditioned with our perception is to feel separate. And thinking makes us feel separate. We get encapsulated in our thought world. Um, and we forget that we can open our senses and really begin to feel the air we breathe, what we see, hear, feel, taste, touch, that presence that Jack was talking about, all inhabiting this same moment together.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for reading part of that. And Jack, did you want to comment on all, your thoughts on how we get people to taste and touch that sense of interconnectedness, so as we do, we're more likely to take better care of others, that it's just a natural outpouring of care and love when we realize that we're hurting others when we're hurting ourselves, and we're hurting ourselves when we're hurting others.
Yeah, thank you for putting it that way, because it's so immediate. First of all, we know it, as Trudy read, it's in our DNA. And it comes to us, the feeling of being part of everything that you just can't that you can't deny. Sometimes walking in the high mountains, or making love, or taking psychedelics. I love it when people come on meditation retreats and they do walking meditation in the woods, and all of a sudden they get quiet enough that the trees speak to them. The leaves sing to them. They go, oh, I forgot leaves. I breathe with them all the time. I forgot. We know it when we're there at the birth of a child, and when we're holding the hand of someone who dies, and then that body is there and the spirit leaves as quietly as a falling star. and the gates of mystery open. We all know this really deep in ourselves. And part of our work and part of the work of love in the summit is that we remind each other. We go out in the woods with a friend. We listen to a transporting piece of music together. Or we're with someone. You know, in India, there's a phrase that's used for gurus when they look at you, called the glance of mercy. Ram Dass did it, and as his life went on. They look at you and it's as if they can look right through you. They see your whole life, all your foolish foibles and mistakes and beauty and neurosis and the whole human package. And they gaze at you with so much love and mercy. It's like, I'm transparent and I'm loved anyway. Mm-hmm. And we can see each other. Thomas Merton called that seeing the secret beauty behind the eyes of every being. So we catch it from each other. Mm-hmm. Our practices, our community, and deep in our DNA, we know it. Mm-hmm. And we long for it. That's what we, a lot of what we do, mm-hmm. find love.
It's interesting. The more the longer my career is as a psychologist and Dharma teacher, the simpler the interventions become. You know, we start off thinking we have to do so many different things to help people. And in the end, it's just like, I'm right here with you. And it might be a simple hug or a caring hand on the shoulder, and the person feels seen and heard. And I think a lot of people right now are frantically looking for solutions without starting at the most very simple place of I'm just being present with another human being as one of the best gifts we can give each other. I think people underestimate the power of presence and as a way of sharing love.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I just wanted to acknowledge, I think it's really important to acknowledge the poet is Fred Lamott. You know, I posted on my Instagram this wonderful quote. It said, there's a study that shows that having a 12-minute talk with a friend can change your whole way of thinking. And the idea that we could have those 12 minutes for each other always. I mean, this is what the Buddha was talking about when he talked about refuge and sangha and community. And we need that right now. We need to connect with each other, actually talk to each other. Another thing that I was teaching, Jack and I were teaching a group of activists a week or two ago. And one of the things that I felt was really important for them and for us all to remember that comes out of indigenous wisdom is the sense that there also is an invisible world that we don't see, that we are embedded in, part of, that surrounds us, and the world, we could call it the world of our ancestors, but to reconnect with that world, to realize that things that seem really solid and fixed are actually mutable and fluid and can change on a dime sometimes. And having some kind of, I consider meditation like a ritual or a ceremony that we can do to reconnect with that world. And some people have a practice of prayer. That's another way. And I mean, how we conceive of it, I don't think really matters. I think that just to remember that there is this invisible world, it's like sort of an invisible river running underneath all of us all the time. That is a very important and comforting thought to me. And not just a thought, it's a reality.
Right.
I love hearing you talk about the invisible river, Trudy. It was a line from Allen Ginsberg in Howl where he talked about the invisible river of tears under the city streets. Yeah. But you're talking about something much bigger, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, I am. I'm talking about the invisible world as an ally and a support.
Yes. And there's a poem I got, again, not so long ago, from Bill and Diddy, who was an Aboriginal stockman in in rural Australia. Um, and it's a song, wouldn't do it in his dialect, but it has some of his chant in it. Well, I'll tell you about this story, about story where you feel. Listen carefully, this you can hear me. I'm telling you because earth, just like mother and father or brother of you, this tree, the same thing. Your body, my body, I suppose, I'm same as you. Anyone, daytime, sun, world, the tree working when you're sleeping, when you dream. That star, he's working. See? He's working. I can see always at night. If you lie down, look careful. He's working, see? When you sleep, blood, he pumping. So you look. Star, he go pink, he come white. See him work and work. In the night, you dream, lay down, and that star, he's working for you. Trees, grass, working for you. Mm. And that last line really touches me because it's true on so many levels scientifically. You sleep and the tree is working to turn your carbon dioxide into oxygen. The grass is working with you. We're working together.
Mm-hmm. Our cells. I mean, when I think of love too, I think the fact that our cells are always online. They're not asleep. Things don't stop physiologically when we fall asleep. Our breath is still supporting us and flowing, ebbing and flowing. Yeah, and I feel like I went for a walk on the beach the other day here in Los Angeles, where I am, and there were these black, beautiful stripes on the beach, and I'd never seen anything like that when I was walking. And I couldn't figure it out, actually. And then I looked closely and I saw charred bits, and I realized, oh my goodness, this is the debris from the fires. This is people's houses, cars, and computers, and kitchens, everything. And it was kind of scary to have to realize that, but at the same time, there was this backdrop of nature, of the waves that will not stop coming. And I think spending time in nature is another way to access the compassion that nature offers to us, as well as, of course, there are disasters, but we have life and death. We have, the giving birth, joyful side of life, and the dying side of life. And I think the most loving thing we can do is learn how to hold it all. Same heart.
Michael, Trudy, I think already mentioned the practices of loving kindness in Sharon Salzberg. And also there's the practices of mindful self-compassion. Inside LA, which Trudy founded, has these wonderful courses in mindful self-compassion because we need it in this world. We know how to love others often much more easily than we know how to take care of ourselves. But I think something even more important, and that is, or equally important, I should say, not more, is since it's the Love Summit, along with love for the universe and the mystery and where we are, is how do we love one another up close? And how do we make that kind of love also come alive for ourselves? And I'll just pose that as the question and sort of flip it over toward Trudy.
I was going to bring that up too, because I thought, yeah, it's the Love Summit, and people probably want to hear about like love and relationships too, in a personal way. And I think, we have just this kind of unheard of freedom in our time to choose somebody for romantic reasons instead of having somebody arrange our marriage or have to do it for, other reasons. And this is something that is actually unique, I think, to this time in history, that we have this privilege, this opportunity that we can express, that we really feel entitled to be able to express all of who we are with somebody, our aliveness, our sexuality, all of it. And that's beautiful and that's amazing, but it also can lead to feeling like if you don't have that kind of partnership, you are unfulfilled somehow in love. And I was remembering my friend Anam Thupten, who's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher, wonderful teacher. He was talking about how when he came to the West, when he came to America, is where he came, everybody was talking about wanting their soulmate, wanting to find their soulmate. And he said, in Tibet, we don't have that concept of a soulmate or love or marriage being about that. He said, but everybody wants to find their perfect guru. That's, everybody wants to find their teacher, who's their soulmate. There's the same longing, but it's directed that way. So I think we have this freedom of our time, but we also have the disappointment or guilt or something that people feel if they don't have that, or they don't know how to make love last. And
it's a lot of pressure.
exactly.
It can be a lot of pressure. Yeah.
It can be a lot of pressure. It can be a lot of pressure. And that's why I don't know, I've had a lot of different, actually I've had a lot of different husbands in this life. And I really feel like when my last marriage ended, I was just feeling like, this is it. I am never going to do this again. It's just not worth the pain of the breakup and the divorce. And I'm going to just grieve this loss, and I am not looking for anybody else. But I also used the time before I got together with Jack, there was 10 years actually, to try to open my heart and just hone my own capacity for love and for receiving love. I was talking with a woman today, and she has found, she never thought she would, and she's found, well, they're not living together yet, but somebody who she feels could be a really loving partner. And she's so afraid of being abandoned that it's hard for her to let that love in. That's hard too. So these are all ways that we can, even if we're not in a relationship where we're actively working together to be as loving as we can in this life, we can still work with the love in us and the love of the people we encounter. And people have sonar for that. They really feel it, even if it's just a little smile or a friendly word or gesture. And that's something we can all do, no matter who we are, what our politics may be. I think we all have sonar for that, even if we're not consciously aware of it. We have an intuitive sense of who is loving, and we can become that person. I just want to say one more thing, which is the Buddha talked about generosity. He always talked about that first in all his talks. And what I loved is that he talked about all these different kinds of generosity, and I don't have to go through them all. But the highest form of generosity was, of course, offering the gift of the Dharma, of meditation, of these practices of presence and mindfulness and self-compassion that we've been talking about, loving kindness and so forth. But there's another gift, and it's part of the highest generosity, which is called the gift of fearlessness, of not being somebody that people have to fear or that they're afraid of. And I love that, because that's, again, something we can all do and be.
Thank you for that. It makes me wonder what kind of practices both of you teach to couples, people who come to you looking for, hey, we need help navigating the difficulties of ourselves, our personalities. And it sounds like, well, what I just heard, and I love a lot, is first of all, generosity of presence, of kindness, and also being someone can not be afraid of. Generosity of safety. I'll be a safe container for you to express who you are without punishing you for what you're expressing. I find that as a huge piece when people can allow each other to express who they are without the punishment of what they're expressing, because that's obviously doesn't happen often in our upbringing. We are often punished for expressing who we are instead of celebrated or encouraged to grow. And so I wonder, for each of you, how are you counseling people into being the best of themselves and also being into the best partner for one another.
When I perform wedding ceremonies, which I used to do, now I pretty much don't, but rarely, before people exchange vows, and I usually have them write their vows and read them to each other, I'll have them gaze at one another. And I'll say, when you go into a used car lot, there are signs in the windows of the used car in big letters that say, as is. And now I want you to gaze at this person that you're marrying, that you love, you're about to take your vows. Do you take this person as is? Because we have all these ideas. We want somebody to complete us, to fulfill us, to be this and that, all those things. And those actually get in the way of love. But if we can see, like the guru, the glance of mercy, if we can see that person and, their suffering and their magnificence and their struggles and their quirkiness and their uniqueness and beauty, and take them as is, that almost becomes the core practice of intimacy and of connection. And then when things get difficult, that becomes the baseline for repair, rather than trying to change that person. Just come back into yourself, say, well, this is what hurt, this is difficult in me, not anything. But to gaze with the eyes of love. And that changes everything. And the fact that we'll have difficulties, well, Francis Lam, who runs one of the creative labs at MIT for future science, some of it's, tech and all kinds of extraordinary AI things, but he also has a plant lab where they're trying to create genetically and otherwise plants that will feed the future and also help the planet. And his students at one point, a couple of his students said, well, do you think our plants might do better if we play music for them? And he said, well, we're scientists. We could find out. So they planted beds of these seeds of plants in different of their greenhouses. And he said, let's play music and measure and see what happens. What should we play? So they played different, there was silence in one and a couple of other kinds of music. And to their surprise, the plants that did best did not grow best listening to Mozart. They thrived listening to Tupac. And the reason was that there was this beat that pushed them around, and they had to grow stronger roots and be really who they were in spite of the difficulty. And I tell this story because every relationship has difficulty. And we can either see it as, oh my God, I picked the wrong person. Yeah, you'll find the person you never have difficulty with in the cemetery. That's about it, So instead it becomes, this is the place to learn more deeply, to learn love, not as a problem, but, oh, here's the invitation. Can we see with those eyes? And I do with Trudy. That's been my practice. And I'm thrilled to have that practice with Trudy because she's so fabulous most of the time.
Most of the time.
I'll remind you, Jack.
Thank you.
So, Mike, one of the things that when you ask, what do we do with couples, and made me think I would like to do a little bit of practice, because that is one of the things that I do with people. I feel like it's easy for people to kind of be up. It's easy for all of us to be up in our thinking minds, thinking. And it's harder to sort of drop in to where the source of love and intuition is. And it's not usually in our thinking mind. So I'd like to invite everybody to just relax into whatever posture your body is comfortable with. And we're going to just do 5 minutes of a meditation together. I like to begin by taking 3 intentional deep breaths, taking a deep breath in, and then breathing out, relaxing. And then one more time, breathing in the aliveness of this moment. And releasing any tension, letting your shoulders drop as you breathe out. Then one more deep breath in. And relaxing as you breathe out. And now allowing the breath to simply flow in its own natural rhythm. And keeping this whole felt sense of the ebb and flow of breathing. Keeping each breath company with your attentiveness, with your attention. And appreciating the breath, the way it attunes without any effort on our part. It is attuned to exactly how it is for us right now. Faster, a little more shallow, if there's some agitation or exertion or emotion, and slower, deeper when there's some relaxation or rest. How is it for you right now? And again, just noticing what a faithful companion the breath is, sustaining our life, always here, as long as we're alive. And this attunement, this stability, this constant companionship of our breath is a form of love. So for the next minute or two, just breathing and appreciating being loved by the breath. And even when your attention wanders away into the past or the future, wherever it wanders, breath is still here, always present. If for any reason the breath it doesn't make you feel relaxed or comfortable, you can tune into the sensations in the body, in the hands, the sounds of life around you. And then when you're ready, opening your eyes, if they were closed, wiggling your fingers and toes. And I just will close this with a contemplation. This is just a little fragment. It's actually a poem by Raymond Carver called Late Fragment. He wrote it when he was dying. And he said, "And did you get what you wanted from this life, even so?" I love that, even so. That's all the things, including it all. But did you get what you wanted from this life, even so? And then he answers himself and he says, "I did." And then he asks himself, "And what did you want?" To call myself beloved, to feel myself beloved on the earth. I think this is what we all want.
I think so many are longing to touch that, to feel that in their lives, inside themselves and with others.
And it's really important right now to get together with people, to focus on the moments of pleasure and joy. Because that's loving too, to
Yeah.
kindness to ourselves.
There is in the Buddhist tradition the notion of a bodhisattva, of extending love and care from yourself to include yourself in all beings. And the Dalai Lama wakes up in the morning, and one of the things that he does is to recite his bodhisattva vows from Shantideva. May I be a bridge, a boat, a raft to help people cross the flood. May I be food for the hungry. May I be a resting place for the weary. May I be a cloak for those who are cold, to warm them. And may I do so as long as earth and sky and beings exist. It's an extraordinary vow. And then you say, well, how could anyone do that? And so I'm going to pick up on what Trudy just said about how we connect with this poem by Stellan Dasanovic. It can happen like that. Meeting at the auto repair, buying tires amidst the smell of rubber, the grating sound of jackhammers and drills. Anywhere we share stories, grace flows between us. And the name of this poem is Everyday Grace. The tire center waiting room becomes a healing place. As one speaks of her husband's heart valve replacement, bed sores from complications. A man speaks of multiple surgeries, notes his false appearance as strong and healthy. I share my sister's death from breast cancer, our youngest only 7. A woman rises, gives her name, Mrs. Henry, then takes my hand. Suddenly, an ordinary day becomes holy ground. And you know it when you're with the Dalai Lama. It's not like some vast, imagination of how we're going to do that in other countries and other planets. It's actually the meeting that our heart brings to whoever is with us, to whatever is around us, which is what Trudy was speaking of. And that's how those vows really become alive in us and with everyone else.
I find it most alive in the simple things too, just the simple things. I appreciate you both so much, not just for, of course, this 45 minutes and what you've shared with our audience, but for the lifetime of work you've done for our benefits and the well-being of everybody that has learned from you. And so thank you for all of that. But also thank you for the simple shifts today in perception. And then Trudy, your beautiful, gentle, quiet practice, which brought us right back to the present moment, which is so full of love, truly. So thank you both for that too. As we end, I know you're both well known, but how can people find you? How can they find you on the web or in your retreats or your teachings?
Okay, so for me, you can find me at trudygoodman.com or on Instagram, Trudy_Goodman, at Trudy_Goodman. And on my website is a calendar of the retreats that I'm teaching and when they are. And I want to thank you, Mike, for your work. You've been at this a long time too, so thank you for that. And thank you everybody for being here and for listening or watching. It's just a joy to be with you.
Thanks, Trudy.
Yeah, and for me, like Trudy, you can look online, jackkornfield.com, and there are courses. Trudy and I did a relationship seminar that's actually in the middle now of 8 weeks of this conversation about relationship intimately and relationship with the world. But I've got lots of other classes and courses and books and things like that. And I invite you to join. I also do teacher training for people who want to learn how to teach these practices of mindfulness and loving kindness. And we do things together, which is always fun.
Yeah, what a great model.
We'll do that course again too, because right now it's in the middle.
Yeah, it'll be rerun. It's not the end. It'll be rerun and available.
Yeah.
And I guess it'll change because you're going to learn so much more about each other going through this course that things are going to grow for the next course. So I'll probably join that one. Thank you guys so much for everything. It was really a pleasure to be with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, take good care.